All right, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending whichever suits to you. My name is Sagnik Datta. I am part of the Citrix Ready technical marketing team managing the desktop ecosystem. And I'll be your host for today's webinar where we have LogicMonitor with us. Let me welcome you all to the Citrix Ready technical webinar series as we showcase how our Citrix and our partners have integrated to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers. Along with me, I have the main speaker, that's Jeff Bell. He's the Chief Network Architect at LogicMonitor.
Welcome all.
Jeff, could you take you to the next? All right. Can I take you to the next slide, please? Thank you. So Citrix Ready is an end-to-end technology partner program that showcases and recommends our third-party products, solutions, and services like LogicMonitor, and customers can easily and quickly find solutions recommended by Citrix in our marketplace. So just navigate to the first link, that's the marketplace link, and if you're interested to know more about our program and how you as a partner can join our program, feel free to check out the second link, which is the Citrix Ready program details. All right, and to give you an overview of LogicMonitor and what it essentially does, it is an automated SaaS performance monitor platform that provides our IT ops teams with end-to-end visibility and actionable metrics to manage today's sophisticated on-premise, hybrid, and cloud infrastructure models. So they are integrated today with Citrix NetScaler, all the latest versions of NetScaler in fact. And today, Jeff would be touching upon the key aspects of the solution that you get, and what you will learn is on operation visibility within your Citrix NetScaler environment and beyond. So I believe this will be a good chance for you to gain some real-world insights, and that Citrix customers, as you as a Citrix customer, would benefit using LogicMonitor. So I'll be rolling over the dice to Jeff very soon now. But before I do that, please note if you have any questions during the webinar, just feel free to use the question panel on the right-hand side, and we can take your questions either during the presentation or at the end of the presentation, depending on the appropriateness. All right. So please welcome our speaker, Jeff. Jeff, I welcome you to this technical webinar series, and over to you.
Thanks, Agnek, and thanks all of Citrix for having the opportunity to speak here. My name is Jeff Beal. I am the Chief Network Architect at LogicMonitor, and as we talked about, this webinar will surround operational visibility into your infrastructure. Brief rundown of the topics I'll be going through. You can see here, give you a brief introduction to LogicMonitor, who we are, and our architecture. We'll dive from that immediately into our visibility we can give you into NetScalers, and from there we'll go into how we can also show your application metrics along with your supporting infrastructure. And we'll round it out with a little talk about how we fit into DevOps environments, which is seeming to be more and more the rage these days. So without much more ado, let's begin. As Sagnik said, we are a SaaS-based IT performance monitoring platform, and we strive to provide end-to-end visibility into your infrastructure. Been around since 2008. We have around 175 employees, and we're still growing rapidly. Our corporate headquarters is here in sunny Santa Barbara, California. We have offices in Austin, Texas, Chengdu, China, Singapore, as well as London. We have, at this point, well over 1,000 customers worldwide, and we are a Citrix Ready partner since 2016. Even though it says 2016, we actually have been using Citrix extensively in our own production environments since the inception of the company, so we feel like old friends. A few quick slides on why customers buy LogicMonitor. The number one area I like to emphasize is that we're SaaS-based, and we'll get into the architecture on that a little more in just a bit. But what SaaS should mean to you is that our deployment is fast. We've taken customers from some of the larger incumbent companies out there that we're still in the midst of implementation up to a year after purchase. LogicMonitor, because of the SaaS-based implementation, the ROI is incredibly fast. The upgrades are free. They're hassle-free, meaning we do them every 4 to 6 weeks. We give you a new feature. There's nothing for you to do on your end. SaaS also means you're not buying expensive hardware on your end, you're not buying databases, licenses, you're not having to worry about disaster recovery, whatnot. We're always getting better. They come to us because we monitor all aspects of your infrastructure, and that spreads between both local on-premise, office, or even into the cloud. Right now, we support Amazon directly and plan to do Microsoft Azure later this year, or later next year, as it is the end of the year. We have a huge portfolio of pre-configured monitoring sources, and the reasons for that is that since we've been around in 2008, our deployment model is SaaS, but we also provide a SaaS service, and that if as customers came to us with whether it's hardware devices, storage systems, hypervisors, applications, databases that we did not already have in the portfolio, we created the monitoring for them. By virtue of that, and having been around since 2008, out of the box, we have thousands of separate logic modules, we call them, or data sources that will fit right into your environment right off the bat. Having said that, it's trivial to customize anything that we've done already to suit your own needs or create something new if you have your own specific applications in your infrastructure. A few more is that our billing model is simple. There aren't plugins for NetScaler, for Cisco, for any of the other hypervisors that are out there, applications, databases, it's all included. We have built-in alerting and escalation chains at a sophisticated level if you want to use that for us, though at the same time we can't interface with other applications or SaaS services that provide that if you already have your own. And finally, in the name of DevOps, and one of the main tenets of it being communication, is we help break down silos. And what I mean by that is having your NetScalers in the same place being monitored as your back-end applications and your hypervisors and your databases all in one place allows your teams to easily communicate between each other and really be able to exchange thoughts on what possibly could be going wrong in an environment. A few competitive deltas. Something you probably won't see out there is we have 2 years of data retention. You can go back 2 years and see anything you like, and that data retention is lossless. We do not aggregate it. We won't give you average views if you go back that far. Not too many other folks offer that. Finally, again, we go between physical and cloud environments. We want to monitor your entire infrastructure wherever it is. We think there's huge value added in having that in one place. Just so you understand this a little more, I'll give you a few slides just on our segmentation. You can see here we have web tech listed. Web tech we define as anybody whose life exists online, meaning their online web presence is what powers the company. That was the initial target of the company way back when it started in 2008, largely because the founders came from web tech environments, some of the earlier ad networks, as well as some other companies in the Santa Barbara area, which was named Expert City, which interestingly enough was purchased by Citrix a long time back and became the Citrix Online Suite. The web tech providers account for about 25% of our customer base. The other two segments I'll go over are about evenly split to round out. We have managed service providers, and those are customers who like to offer services to other customers. And the reason they come to us for that need is a few. Our deployment model, again, SaaS, makes it trivial for us to monitor their customers' environments if they are on-premise at the customer site. Also, because of the huge portfolio, you can use this to monitor whatever a customer has, even if you don't already have experience with it internally. This comes in handy a lot of times as some of these managed service providers get additional clients. And finally, we have an extensive RBAC system, meaning if you want to provide your customer a customer with insight into their NetScaler directly, some dashboards, whatnot, or give their engineers access, that's also doable. And the third and final segment is just large enterprise IT, as we see this shift to SaaS-based services and companies not wanting to purchase hardware to run other people's software. They're starting to come to us rapidly as well, and they probably are about 40% of our customer base now. Interestingly, they share some of the same attributes as the managed service providers, and what I mean by that is in these larger companies, your customers might be other internal service groups where the RBAC system comes in really handy. Nice little quote from a large customer of ours, kind of attests to our ability to monitor very complex environments and the fact that we're continuously growing with you. As a SaaS service, again, we provide updates without you having to do anything. Slide or two on our architecture and how SaaS works when you might have on-premise equipment. You'll see here on the left the mention of the LogicMonitor or LM collector. We used to call this an agent, but we changed the name to collector mainly because individuals were confused in thinking that you had to install an agent on every single host. And obviously that's not possible. You can't install an agent on a NetScaler itself. So we renamed them to collectors. And how collectors work is about a 100 megabyte downloadable file or application. You can install them on a Windows or Linux machine. And it's from there that we do all of our data or metrics gathering. You install these collectors where it makes the most sense from you. Always having them as close to the infrastructure being monitored is, of course, something you should always strive to do. So you can put them on a per data center basis. It's quite common. You can put them in branch offices, in cloud environments. You can put them in a layer 3 security zone. The collectors themselves are lightweight. After you install them, you don't touch them. They do not have any onerous requirements instead of infrastructure. A few gigs of memory and a few cores is generally all that's needed to monitor hundreds, if not thousands, of individual endpoints. The collectors themselves speak all the protocols that are required to talk to your back-end devices and infrastructure. There is only one type of collector. You don't need to get one specifically for a NetScaler or for Linux or for Windows. They are all-encompassing. They speak all the protocols that are required from SNMP, the WMI, HTTP, as well as directly to APIs, such as the case of NetScaler, speak JMX for Java apps, and they can speak directly to databases and a number of other features, other applications, pardon me. From your infrastructure, the only communication you'll see of these collectors outgoing is via TLS, port 443, back to LogicMonitor's data centers. And from there, you as a customer simply go to a web browser that's dedicated to your team, your account, and that's how you control it. The collectors aren't touched again. The upgrades can be scheduled by yourself from the web console as you see fit. And let's continue on. Final plug on the architecture. As you can see here on the left, the different areas of data that we can take in really across your entire infrastructure stack. And you can see that it gets pumped back to our data centers where we do all the heavy lifting, provide dashboards, correlations, forecasting, reporting, etc. And on the right, you can see a number of other companies that we've integrated directly with. And this list is not all-encompassing. There's a number more. It's also flexible in that you can create your own custom integrations. We realize that we have to coexist with other tools out there, including potentially sources of your actual infrastructure itself. Meaning it's possible to sync with your CMDBs, such as ServiceNow, or send alerts to them, or create tickets in other areas if that's the way your business operates. We're not here to dictate. We're just here to accommodate how things work. All right, diving quickly into what you folks are here for, which is how we can monitor Citrix NetScalers. And I'll give you a high-level overview of some of the statistics that we can gather out of them from the system level, the physical components, and here's a smattering of a few other areas. And this is, again, is not all-encompassing, from compression to time to first byte, AAA statistics if you're interested in that, and some other things that oftentimes are forgotten, much to the chagrin of those involved. And that might be SSL expirations. Meaning as you add these SSL certificates to your NetScalers, we will provide you with monitoring and let you know before they expire. And one note I wanted to make clear before I go any farther is that the ability to gather all these statistics is not something you have to manually go through and say, monitor this, monitor this. LogicMonitor is a highly automated platform. We think that the more you can get individuals out of having to remember to do things, it's the better for the company and the infrastructure. Okay, so this is your first look at a LogicMonitor account. You would be given, as a potential customer, your account name would be company.logicmonitor.com, and from there you would see all of your infrastructure. What you're seeing right here is our device tree, which is generally the entry point into the application. On the far left, you can see some of the other areas that we work on as well. And in this particular example, you can see that I've grouped NetScalers into various physical data center locations. You can see the London facility right here, Los Angeles a little below that, Washington, D.C. Inside of them, I might have groups that include other equipment, such as your Cisco or Palo Alto firewalls, of course your NetScalers, both the individual nodes as well as the HA floating VIP, as well as some production servers. And the point in showing this here is that you are able to group devices however you see fit. And important, whatever fits into your model at your company. It should also be noted that you can group in multiple ways, meaning NetScaler or any device can be in multiple groups. So it's quite common to have functional group listings as well as location-based listings all at the same time. And using our role-based access control, you can give different individuals access to see different groups. Again, right here you can start seeing that you can have all of your infrastructure in one place. Your NetScalers as well as the devices they rely upon, which it could be your network equipment as well as to the backend servers that they're providing access to. Quick note on this, and that these groups oftentimes they can be created dynamically, meaning again alluding to the fact that we think as little configuration as possible that for you to do on your end is better. The groups can be dynamically created by simple regular expressions. You can see here on the bottom left of the screen where a group definition could simply say, I want all devices that match this regular expression of beginning with scalar and having LD5 to be put into the group that represents NetScalers in the London data center. No extra work needed on your end. It will just magically appear as you add any additional NetScalers in that facility. Finally, I want to bring your attention to on the device tree at the very bottom. You can see NetScalers that are virtual. We do support virtual NetScalers as well as the hypervisors that they reside on, as well as the cloud environments, which might mean an Amazon virtual NetScaler.
Hey Jeff, good stuff. I just want to ask a quick question.
Sure.
You also mentioned about containers. So is there anything from NetScaler CPX side also that you plan the scope of LogicMonitor has?
Sure, absolutely. And of course, when we gather NetScaler specific information, we use the means that are available to us given by NetScaler, which is largely access to the API as well as SNMP in some cases. So as long as those are exposed, either one to us, we'll be able to monitor the virtual NetScaler and the container just the same. At the same time, LogicMonitor does monitor containers in the Dockerized world we all seem to be heading into as well.
Perfect. Cool.
All right, so I'm going to quickly jump into some of the dashboards you might be able to generate off of your NetScalers in the environments, just to give you some food for thought. Here you can see one I've created that's just dealing with the LD5 or the London NetScaler presence. And you can see some of the statistics that I've decided to put up on a dashboard for easy viewing. Dashboards are great places to help just look around and see how things are going. I like to call them have a cup of coffee and see how traffic is. You can change the time frame to encompass a day, a month, 3 months. They look great on your NOC TVs and whatnot, just to see general trending and whatnot. A few of the statistics you'll see here are just gets and posts, as well as a top 10 from the load balancing VIPs and client connections. You'll see incoming SINs, and a favorite for everybody or not, depending on where you reside, surge queues. And followed up by some general information on network statistics. And here might be a more global view of things. Now, whereas the slide before was showing just the London data center, this dashboard group here is showing all of your NetScalers. You can see the Los Angeles, the Washington, D.C. facility as a NetScaler cluster, as well as the London cluster. You'll notice that these devices are all shown on the same place and in every graph. And I want to make a note again that the way these graphs are constructed is really similar to the way you create those dynamic folders I was talking about earlier, and that they can match on regular expressions, pretty much on any attribute of your device. Obviously, names included, but there can be custom properties and whatnot that you add that might sequester on a per functional area as well. What that means is as you add an additional NetScaler to your environment, it automatically appears here without any work needing to be done by yourself. Again, we really aim to be highly automated in that regards. A few other dashboard widgets just for food for thought. We offer top 10s, meaning show me the top 10 customer-facing CS VIPs you might have in your environment at any one time. You can display your alerts on these dashboards if you want, both existing or ones that have already cleared up. You can see functional, what we call a NOC widget, where you can see the different groups of where you might have not only your NetScaler equipment, but also your Cisco's, your Palo Altos, your storage devices, etc. And these, again, are something that we, personally, I didn't realize how much cache this had until we got just all sorts of demands from customers that they like to be able to display these on their knock walls throughout the company. All right, so diving into an individual NetScaler, and you can see here in this screen that I have the scaler.ld5, London NetScaler, expanded here, and you can see all the data sources underneath it. We call these things data sources, or logic modules is the newer term for them. They're really just grouping of common metrics that we put in one place. All these logic modules you see below here were automatically discovered. You can see the one I'm showing you right now has to do with compression. We get all the relevant compression information that you could possibly need, from absolute bandwidth to per packet, and the request looking to be compressed. Anything you see here as a graph can be alerted on, of course. There's actually a lot more statistics that we don't graph. Some of them just don't lend themselves to graphing, that are behind the scene. A quick smattering down the list, you can see that we will give you DNS statistics if you're using your NetScalers in DNS. I'll go into some of the global NetScaler statistics in just a moment. You'll see some AAA statistics, NetScaler CPUs, where we can give you per core metrics. Again, I'll show you that in a little bit as well. Interfaces and NetScaler services, and you'll notice this one has parentheses around it, and production. That lends to how you can do dynamic groupings at multiple levels, and I'll dive deeply into that in just a moment. SSL VPNs, the various vServers, which again we'll get into in a minute, all the way down to, do you have NTP synced to your NetScaler? We really want nothing left to chance on these devices. The more you can monitor, the better chance that you won't have issues later on. And finally, to a personal favorite of mine, the SSL certificate checks. Again, these were all automatically detected without the customer having to do anything beyond provide us the requisite access credentials needed to ask the NetScaler device. Some additional slides here. This is a NetScaler Global. You're not going to see everything here as is a static slideshow, but you can see some of the statistics we decided to graph for the NetScaler Global. That's the obvious ones like CPU to TCP RAN transmissions, which I have personally in the past seen as an excellent indication of there being some sort of larger WAN or network issues in your infrastructure. And again, we keep the data for up to 2 years. And while it's not shown here, viewing the raw data is possible. Wanted to bring your attention that I've actually zoomed in here, and you can see that I'm focused now on just this London NetScaler, scaler.ld5. The device tree itself is able to encompass tens of thousands of devices. We've put a number of nice features in there that allow you to still operate in an environment like that, such as being able to zoom in and focus on subtrees. Just to give you an idea of how detailed type of statistics we can give you, on this NetScaler here, you can see that I have the NetScaler CPUs monitored, and not only do you see the packet CPUs, of which there's 3, which I'm sure the gentleman on the other line will confirm is a licensing, so very few actual physical CPUs that only have 3 cores in them. But we also provide you with the management CPU. And why that sort of information? The management CPU comes into play heavily, especially when you're dealing with API requests and whatnot. So if in your environment you query the NetScaler API a lot and might have some application run amok, it's very possible to see the management CPU go up. It's a good thing to keep an eye on, and an example of how we really mean to monitor everything in your environment. A little bit of graph candy here. You can see that graphs can be expanded, and this is just simply by clicking in the right-hand corner of one. And you can see that I've gone back a year's worth of data here. You can see it all extending all the way back, the general growth of this NetScaler in terms of the global CPU. Also, I wanted to bring note to the fact that the visualizations, we consider them pretty advanced, in that this is not an averaged out view. If this was an average view of your NetScaler CPU over time, this would quite simply be a very flat looking line. But due to some advanced visualization techniques we have in place, it's not straight average sampling. It will show you anything that might be of significance in the past. Okay, so NetScalers are wonderful. We love them. We use them. Obviously, they don't exist just solely by themselves. And I'm going to start getting into how you can also view your applications along with your NetScalers at the same time. Again, we're zoomed into a specific NetScaler here. This is scaler.dc7. And I wanted to walk you down what you're seeing right here in this device tree. You'll notice that I'm looking at NetScaler services here, and in parentheses it says no guarantee. And below that, that one is actually the no guarantee services are broken down or expanded. You can see the individual backend NetScaler services that are providing this, that are included in this group. Below that, you'll see NetScaler services production. Now I'm going to go through on exactly how we did that and how trivial it is to make this fit into your organization. In our environment at LogicMonitor, large customers will get what we call a sandbox of sorts, where they can have a separate account in order to not only do things that they might not want to do in production against the production NetScaler instance, against the production LogicMonitor account, but it's also a area where LogicMonitor itself can push the latest updates that aren't ready for production release, but it can give a nice foreview to our customers. These services are not guaranteed since they are free, and that we oftentimes will put in software that's not quite ready for production in there. By virtue of that, we've grouped them together into the no guarantee service. And I'll explain why that's important in just a minute. Below that, you'll see we have production services, which are treated entirely differently. And below that, you can see I have NetScaler V services broken down. And you'll see a few different ones here, from your content switching VIPs to your load balancing VIPs. You'll notice a few of those are broken down as well. That the load balancing VIPs, we have internal ones, which might front some internal corporate applications, internet sort of services, to ones that encompass just customer load balancing VIPs. And more on that in a minute. One note before I contend, that dynamicism I keep talking about extends here as well. Meaning, if you were to add a new service and it fit the criteria to belong in the no guarantee group of services, that would happen automatically. We'd discover it in the NetScaler automatically. There would be no extra work from you. Sorry, one quick note in the back. A very common use case for that is staging versus production versus QA systems as well. And how is that dynamicism created? There's an example again for that specific services NetScaler group I was showing you for no guarantee. First, I'll notice that I've misspelled guarantee, or somebody did here in the comment. But the way this was done was trivial. We cloned what you as a customer would get, the NetScaler services data source. We cloned it, we renamed it with, just added on no guarantee, and we simply put in a filter. The filter here says that the wild value, which is in this situation the service name, if it matches svc-demo-ng as a regular expression, it'll automatically appear in this group. So this is a really trivial example of one that you can do that's static, and based on the name. You can do quite complex groupings as well. What I mean by that is it's possible to group services, LB VIPs, CS VIPs based on external sources of data. And what I mean by that is, while a little more complex to set up for understandable reasons, if your services belong in a specific group based on some information in a database or a web application or whatnot, we're able to go and query that device and say, how should we group that service? And again, how that comes into play, you'll see very quickly on the importance of this dynamic grouping. I'm sure some of you already are thinking of ways to do it. For instance, again, going back to the classic staging and QA systems should be in a completely different group than your production ones, as they need to be dealt with differently. All right, so why is this important? Why is this grouping important at all? To begin with, I'll show you that I have expanded here statistics for a specific load balancing VIP. And right off the bat, I wanted to show you some of the statistics we're gathering on every load balancing VIP. You can see there's client connections, requests and traffic information, standard requests, of course, backend server connections. You also can monitor the number of services that are up or the number of services that are down for individual load balancing VIP, and you can alert on those accordingly. Of course, there's the notion of alerting on the state as reported by the NetScaler, and some of our favorite things like the surge count. Now, where this really comes in handy is with alerting, and we'll jump quickly to that right now. So the alerting that you do on your NetScaler or any device within LogicMonitor can be geared based off of these groupings, such that a staging alert might not ever be generated, or it might go only to email, whereas a production alert might follow a far more complex alert routing. And what you see here on the right is an example of an escalation chain for one of the production ones. What this one's basically saying is, on a warn condition, I want you to send it to a HipChat, which is our internal chat client, as well as log it somewhere. However, if it gets to error condition, then there's a number of stages. You'll see stage 1, 2, and 3. In an error condition, I want to tell the first person on the list, send them an SMS, as well as these other two, as well as this individual as well. If they don't respond within a set amount of time, which is configurable, it'll go to the second stage, in which case it will go to a certain person, and that one might use native SMS as opposed to SMS email. And it might go to the entire NOC group. And the third stage could be something as severe as a robo voice call, which I like to refer to as the bad admin feature if they need to be woken up by a voice call and they're not getting actual SMS messages. These are a few that we include in terms of escalation alerting methods. We do integrate, like I said earlier, with other sorts of services, from Slack and HipChat to external ticketing systems, etc., to even external alerting systems such as PagerDuty. Here's an example of how you might create a dashboard of a grouped application and have it made visible to an individual application group or on a NOC wall or whatnot. You can see that you might group together the VIPs that are part of, in this situation, the services that are part of that no guarantee group, the demo-ng, which I was referring to earlier. They'll only be shown here. You can also see that we offer some advanced widgets, such as an SLA, and that one takes a little time to describe, so I'll go through that. This graph you're seeing here, because of our earlier grouping, is encompassed only of demo-ng services. The graph metrics you see here is the time to first byte, and what this is showing you, and this time frame looks to be about 2 days here, is during this time frame, the time to first byte for all demo-ng services was less than 100 milliseconds for 99.48% of the time. And this really comes in handy in SOA sort of environments. You can choose to alert on these sort of attributes, of course. And at the same time, this dashboard is showing the NetScaler metrics. Is also showing you some information on backend MySQL processes that are a part of this demo-ng pod that we have. They're obviously all intertwined, as well as this is a Java app. You can see the actual JVM metric view of the CPU. And again, below that are the services. This is again an area where we think there's just a huge amount of gain by having all these visible in one place. So if there is an issue with your NetScaler service, it's not immediately the NetScaler guy's fault. It very well could be the database guy's problem or the server administrator. I'm going to then go through a few of the more recent features we've announced that come in handy. And again, these features I'd like to emphasize as part of a SaaS service, they're included. You do not have to do any upgrading of your infrastructure in your site in order to get them. And again, we release every 4 to 6 weeks. We just keep getting better. In this specific instance, you can see that we're doing some forecasting, and that based on this trend in NetScaler CPU data, which looks to encompass about the past year, within about a 95% probability, you could say it's going to be around here in 3 months. And where I really like to see this, use this internally, is to use with the business folks when showing them, look, we need to upgrade or license additional cores or maybe even buy additional NetScalers. And this is a great way to show them in a visual way. Another example of something we've released recently, and this one literally is hot off the press, and I am really ecstatic about this one. It's a huge value add to a company. We do configuration management now, where looking again at your London NetScaler, not only will you get all the statistics on it, you also get the running configuration and the saved configuration. This applies to NetScalers. It also applies to Cisco's, Palo Alto's, you name it. It's customizable, meaning you can customize it to fit any sort of back-end application or device you might have, and we'll be continuously releasing additional pre-built ones for that. I believe the Cisco's are available now, as well as the NetScaler. Just the ability to see the configuration in one place is a huge win. You can also be alerted on any changes to configuration. They'll appear in your alerts portal or even be sent via an email to you if that's what you'd like. While you, of course, can see the actual configuration and download it at any time, you can also see diffs from the last time it was made. And you can see in this situation somebody added a LBD server zip. Again, these are just another example of the features we continue to add on. Okay, a few more slides here. I feel like I've been droning on long enough. Let's give some of the supporting infrastructure, show you how we can help you with that as well. And what I mean by that is we monitor your NetScalers, but of course they don't live in a silo. They're dependent on networks to exist, and LogicMonitor can dive into your network equipment just as heavily as we can dive into your NetScalers. What you're seeing here is an example of an edge switch or router. Looks like this one's running BGP. Here are the different peers that are being monitored on that router. This actual graph you're seeing is a CPU for a supervisor slot. As an example, again, of the way we work in an active manner, if you were to add an additional supervisor slot into the Cisco, we would automatically detect that and add it into monitoring. I bring this up because it's really easy for somebody who is maintaining a NetScaler to be told that it's being slow, when in reality there might be some wider level WAN events. Meaning there might be some BGP and OSPF flaps, you might be congested, have QoS issues, etc. We work with all of the major vendors that are out there in order to provide you in-depth intelligence into them as well, just like your NetScaler. This really helps people out in terms of just getting to the root cause of an issue. And just another quick slide on that is you can also make dashboards, of course, based on your network equipment and overall bandwidth. Could be included drop packets here or OSBGP events, OSPF or BGP events, etc. Here you can see across a few data centers we've got an aggregate WAN utilization graph. All right, getting closer to the end here. Part of your environment is more than likely these days going to involve hypervisors. We support Citrix Zen hypervisor out of the box, as well as VMware and Hyper-V. By virtue of you adding in one of these hypervisors, we will give you the statistics that that hypervisor provides on every individual VM. There's no extra cost for that. We charge just, again, for the hypervisor itself, meaning if it's a vCenter host, that's one device to us. What you're seeing here is a VMware ESX host. You can see all the virtual machines listed here, as well as some top 10 graphs of how they are performing. And of course, where this comes in really important is if you have a virtual NetScaler in your environment. You can see right here the name of this host is ESX VM NSVPX, or NetScaler VPX device on an ESX host. These are the VMware specific metrics that are being given to us by that virtual machine that could be directly affecting your NetScaler, CPU blocking being a key one. Again, we want you to have full visibility in what could be affecting you and your environment. And where would we be if we couldn't mention cloud? It seems to be on the tip of everybody's tongue these days. We provide in-depth monitoring into Amazon Web Services. We'll have Microsoft Azure in 2017. For Amazon, we collect CloudWatch metrics directly from Amazon and monitor any of their services, from Elasticsearch to their API gateway. At the same time, if you have a virtual NetScaler in your Amazon cloud environment, we can tie into that, showing you not only the statistics that I've shown you already involving the NetScaler directly as we gather from their API, but also the underlying statistics provided by Amazon on that instance that's running. And where I've seen this really come in handy is Amazon is known for, on occasion, saying that an instance is being retired or that there is a hardware issue in their cloud. It's not an uncommon thing as you get larger and larger there. LogicMonitor will show you that in the same place that you can see the performance of the NetScaler, really helping to avoid some nasty surprises, to say the least. And finally, I'll dive a few slides into what this means in terms of visibility in your DevOps environment. Real quick, nice quote we got from a one of our favorite customers. They're power users of LogicMonitor. They're a very cutting-edge company. And what I really wanted to get out of this is that the mention of culture, which is a huge tenet of DevOps. It's not really a technical thing. It's more of a cultural thing. And what LogicMonitor really helps you do is makes it such that your database group and your NetScaler group and your network group and your application group aren't siloed away. DevOps is about breaking down those silos so these groups can communicate and get things done faster and figure out root cause for issues when they do occur. If they're all using the same monitoring platform, they're all speaking the same language, it just makes communication easier. Oops, I got skipped. A few of our areas that people use us in DevOps environments, again, it provides for communication across groups. We have a REST API that's open and documented, so you can interact with your account as you see fit. Where this really lends itself in is automations. Internally, here at LogicMonitor, we're integrated with our deployment system. We use Ansible for our deployments. We integrate, we have a module that you can use as well. It's open on the Ansible Forge. And what you see here, an example on this page is somebody might come in the morning and notice some very large spikes in their environment for a specific backend application server. Goes up, you might actually see a NetScaler request per second go down at a time. Luckily, because we use these automated deployments, they went in, and the first thing they do is in LogicMonitor, they scheduled a downtime such that the on-call engineer would not get paged. Then they added a note saying automatically that I'm deploying a certain version of a certain application, and they mark it on your graphs. It means the guy who comes in the morning and sees this huge dip, he can say, looks like there was a deployment last night. No problem, I didn't get a page, but I understand what's going on. Use of op notes is something that I really heavily encourage within our environment. We also have built-in integrations with both Puppet and Ansible. Again, you can write your own as well. And without that, since I have spoken plenty, that gets to the end of what I have prepared. I hope you all enjoy that, and I wanted to thank you for attending, and I believe we're going to open it up for any questions if there are any.
Hey, thanks so much, Jeff. Yes, that's a good. We have a couple of questions here, and I'll just take one after the other.
Great.
So one of the questions there is about your largest customer in terms of the number of devices. Can you take that?
Yeah, we have a few customers that are in the 30 to 40,000 device range. So we can operate wherever you are at any time, and our billing model will lend itself to that. And in those sort of environments, just to give you an idea, we have the ones I'm thinking of specifically, they're spread throughout data centers across the world as well as in the cloud. At the same time, after we got into their data centers, their corporate team started using us as well to monitor more mundane things than probably most of you on this webinar are tasked with, such as printers or even office switches and whatnot. So I guess the direct answer is we're a cloud service. We'll scale to whatever your needs. And currently our largest are between 30 and 40,000. We have a few in that range.
Perfect, perfect. How do you deal with VIP monitoring and HA clusters?
So VIP monitoring and HA clusters was interesting in that you, of course, want to monitor individual nodes on your NetScaler to make sure their health is up. You want to obviously be alerted if you fall out of HA mode. If you're not synced, we will provide you with that. At the same time, you don't want to base your VIPs on an individual node because during an HA event, the virtual servers will move from one NetScaler to the other, which might break up your graphs. The way we do that is you can use your subnet IP or your floating IP and add that directly into LogicMonitor. And it's from there that you actually do the VIP monitoring, such that there's only one source of alerts. It's on that floating VIP, and any HA event is just, it's not visible on the graphs unless you want it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. It does. And does LogicMonitor run out of physical data centers or out of cloud?
We do both. LogicMonitor, our place of we have physical data centers in the Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and in the London area, and that's where a vast majority of our data processing goes to. That's where all your streaming traffic flows to as we ingest data metrics. We do use Amazon as well. We're a true hybrid shop and have direct connections with them for some of the more mundane things such as storing backups and whatnot, and sometimes prototyping applications. We find it's a great place to do that before we decide on moving it into our physical data centers.
Great. So that's all we have. I mean, I don't see any more questions popping in.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming, and for those of you who it is the holiday season, happy holidays.
Yes, and also I see that for slides and recording, we will be sending over to you guys within a day or two. And thank you again, Jeff, for taking time and going through the presentation and sharing your knowledge with us. And last but not the least, I want to thank each one of you for attending our webinar today and part of the Citrix Ready Technical Webinar series. And that shall conclude the broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Sagnik.
Thanks, Jeff. Bye.